Get the hell away from the mic and get the hell away from the bush, man. You're saying some weird shit right now on national TV. Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Before we get into our story today, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help support the channel, and it also forces the YouTube algorithm to send my videos out there to new viewers who haven't seen my content or my channel, which allows us to grow here at the Bald Brad Show, so your help would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, our story of the day is about the President of the United States, one, acting really weird on camera and really embarrassing and not sentient, as well as him making the claims that employers are to blame for unemployment, as well as the overall consensus supposedly is inflation's just going to kind of either drop or disappear. And, you know, again, we all know he's in mental decline. Is it hard to see? Yes. Is it embarrassing to see? Yes. It's also kind of funny, but like I said, overall, it's just really weird. And the Democrats are pretending like he's okay. The Democrats and the media are pretending like the guy's just a normal human being, that as if he was 30 years ago, he is now as far as mental state goes. We all know that's not the case, but I digress. Let's go ahead and roll the tape. Let's see the reaction of this.
We're going to increase more, and guess what? Remember, you're asking me, and I'm not being critical of you all, I really mean this. It was legitimate questions you're asking me. Asking me, well, you know, guess what? Employers can't find workers. I said, yeah, pay them more.
Why? Why would you do that? Why would you lean into the mic like a creepy old guy walking up to you, you know what I mean, at a family party and be like, "What are you eating?" Why would you do that, man? That's super awkward. But the whole idea that he's saying like, oh, well, you know, you can't hire people because of the wage that you're offering them. Yeah, maybe that has something to do with it, but also maybe the fact that you shut businesses down for an entire year and a half to where maybe they had to lower their wages for people because they couldn't afford to pay people the same wages they were pre-COVID. Or maybe it was the fact that the government decided to pay American citizens more in wages than they were when they were at their employers. So basically the federal government is out competing individual businesses in the private sector. There's many reasons as to why an employer would not increase the wages of an employee. Heck, maybe that employee didn't deserve it. But for the President of the United States to come out and make a stupid claim like that, as well as lean into the mic as if it's something obvious, shows that the dude is not all there, folks. I mean, I know I'm repeating myself. I know we've seen clips of this guy roaming around the G7 getting lost, and his wife and the Secret Service got to come and wrangle him up. But I mean, it's just getting weirder and weirder as the months goes by. It hasn't even been a year yet. Can you imagine in 3 years what this guy's going to be like on camera? I mean, there's going to be more reaction videos, I guess. It's just pure content, good content for us. But let's go ahead and continue.
This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening? They're going to have to compete and start paying hardworking people a decent wage.
So we have the president here making the claim that employers are not paying employees a decent wage. Who determines what a decent wage is? And that's kind of my whole thing about minimum wage or just wages in general, is that if an employee is negotiating that wage or accepts that wage that they're being paid, then the premise has to be that they're the ones that think it is a decent wage and that is what they're worth. Or the case is that they don't think that's what they're worth. They're going to take the job for the time being, and at the same time, look for employment out there that's going to pay them a higher wage for what they are worth. And again, you have to let the market decide, and it's a negotiation between the employee and the employer to decide what that employee is worth and what the employer can afford for that time. Now, I know a lot of people like Ethan Klein or leftists like Sam Cedar don't agree with things like that, but it is the notion of it's not the government that gets to decide what you're worth, but it's the employee that's going to decide what they're worth, as well as in conjunction, a negotiation with the employer. So employee versus employer, not that difficult.
And by the way, talk of inflation. The overwhelming consensus is going to pop up a little bit and then go back down. No one's talking about this great,
That's a great thing, you know? No, Joe, we don't know, because everything you say is just mumbling. You don't explain yourself very well. And the fact that you're talking about there's a consensus that's going to go up and then go back down, it doesn't make sense in conjunction and context to what you're talking about of increasing wages. Everybody knows that. Let me just explain what inflation is, just very simplified, because I think a lot of people get confused with what it is, and I'll use a very simplified example. You have a balloon, and you need to blow it up, right? You need to inflate it. That's all it means. Make it bigger, expand it. You blow air into it, or helium, or a certain gas, and it will inflate. So the more of something you put into that balloon, the bigger it's going to inflate. Well, if you increase the wages of the employee, then you have to receive that money somewhere to be able then to distribute it to the pocketbook of the employee, meaning it's the goods or services that you're providing to the consumer. So the consumer is going to have to pay more money for that good and service because you're ultimately increasing labor. Now, that doesn't always happen on a small incremental level of wages increasing, but there are studies out there that the more you increase those wages, the more of an effect that it has on an employee's hours, or the effect that it's going to have on the economy as a whole. So the whole idea that you're not going to have continued inflation here when you're increasing wages or you're pumping more money into the government is just asinine, and it's a very silly statement to make. As far as the President of the United States is going here, you could tell he is not all there. He actually used to know and articulate economics pretty darn well in the Senate. Doesn't mean I agree with him, but he used to be able to articulate his ideas and his thoughts a lot more clear than he is now. He's just not there. He is not making assimilations between two things in the same context, in the same paragraph, in the same statements, folks. And it's pretty asinine. And the sad thing is people are going to sit there and take it and just believe in it. Maybe there are aspects that he is correct on it. I'm not saying he's all false here, but the premise that you're not going to have continued inflation here when you're trying to increase wages and at the same time you're pumping money back into the government just doesn't make sense. On top of the fact that when you have inflation, you're hurting the purchasing power of the consumer. Now, also the employees are going out into the economy and becoming consumers themselves. So just because they're getting a higher wage doesn't mean that that purchasing power was the same as it was pre-COVID or pre what their old wage was. So it just, I don't know. I'm having a hard time following it here. Sam Cedar makes some certain arguments as well that doesn't make really any sense to me. I still don't know his position on wage increases as well as minimum wage. He hasn't gone into detail as far as what I can see so far. I'm going to do more research on it to see if I can find it. It just doesn't make sense to me on what some of these people are talking about. I'm not saying I'm right. I just don't know their argument, and I'm trying to make and connect the understanding of it. That's all I'm saying. Let's go ahead and continue.
So, again, if it turns out that what I've done so far, what we've done so far, is a mistake, it's going to show. It's going to show the economy's not going to grow like it wasn't before. People aren't going to have jobs with increased pay like it was before. People are going to be out of work like it was before with no options. Unemployment's going to continue to climb instead of continue to go down. If that happens, then my policies didn't make a lot of sense. But
that to me is a really interesting thing he's saying here, and I'm going out on a limb, meaning I'm assuming here he's talking about the policies he put in place, and he's making it seem like this was a whole orchestrated plan. And I'm going to make it kind of connection of what I was just talking about previously, because it's actually really important. If this is true, and if I end up being true, I'm full aware that I could be wrong here, folks, on the policies that he's talking about. But if the government is paying the American citizens more money than what an employer should be doing, it's making it seem like this was the plan all along, was to outcompete, make the government outcompete the private sector, so that the private sector would have to force their hand on them pay an American citizen or an employee more money and outcompete the federal government. I don't know if I'm right or wrong here on that as far as the whole aspect of his policy, but if that was his policy and I am right, that is wrong, and that is not the government's job to outcompete the private sector. At that point, it's not any longer a free market anymore. You've completely obliterated the free market because now you're going up against a sector of the market that you're never supposed to go up to in the first place. You're not supposed to compete with the government. You're supposed to compete with other free market laborers that are in the same market as you. And now Joe Biden and the government are forcing their hand to force employers to pay more money. Very similar with the minimum wage argument. I'm not going to go full into detail on that anymore. I got plenty of videos on minimum wage. But to me, that is, if that is the plan, that is extremely wrong, folks. But also, we have video snippets, kind of like a montage of our president acting super weird during the same press conference. I don't know what this guy's doing. And I'm going to try not to laugh. I only saw a snippet of it and I'm like, dude, what is going on with this guy? But let's go ahead and roll it.
I got them $1.9 trillion relief so far. They're going to be getting checks in the mail that are consequential. I wrote the bill on the environment. Pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening?
I'm literally crying. I don't want to laugh too hard in the mic, so I start sweating because I have to hold back so hard. Guys, I love comedy. I love laughing. I laugh at everything. I know it seems like I'm very serious on the show, but outside of it, I literally laugh at everything. So it takes a lot for me to not literally yell really loud into the mic laughing. This dude is not all there. He's acting like a delusional person, as if he's drunk. I've been to parties before where you're kind of walking around, a guy's so plastered, shit-faced, where he's talking to a bush just like this, as if my microphone's the bush, and he's, hey buddy, how you doing? You having a good time? Yeah. It's like, dude, what the hell you doing, dude? Get the hell away from the mic and get the hell away from the bush, man. You're saying some weird shit right now on national TV. But you're not going to hear it from the media, as if CNN's just going to be like, oh yeah, it's normal. That's how people talk all the time. Oh no, that's typical for a president of the United States to lean into the mic like that and whisper sweet nothings in your ear like it's ASMR. Like, dude, what's happening right now with this guy? Again, it's only been, 7 months that he's been in office, maybe a little over 6. He's losing it, folks. He is losing it. But it is hilarious at the same time. It's also embarrassing at the same time. And it's also sad at the same time, because we used to know how Joe Biden acted. We used to know how he talked. We used to know his mannerisms. The dude is losing it, and he's losing it quick, folks. And this is the guy that's supposed to lead the free world. At the same time, say that as you put more money into the economy, you're not going to see more inflation happen. I don't know, guys. Again, I'm always open to being wrong. I'm not one of those conservatives or one of those people that are like, I'm right all the time and everything I say is absolutely correct. I might misspeak, or somebody might misunderstand me on tape. But I'll tell you what, the president needs to articulate himself a lot damn better, because right now he's looking a little bit silly on camera, not just from what he's saying, but also how he's acting. I hope, folks, you enjoyed this show. Please share it on social media. Hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bald Brad Show.